Welcome, everybody. Okay, well, I think we've got a good turnout. If you've just joined us, you're more than welcome to put on your video and your audio and say hello. And then in a minute, we're going to start and put up a PowerPoint for you.
Hello, I'm Law from Malaysia.
Welcome. Hello. Very nice. Good to see everybody. Thank you for coming on time. So I think we might begin, Shri, shall we?
Yes, we shall. So we would just like a quick photograph before we really kick off.
Yeah, I think Cam's good to go with the photograph. All good.
Perfect.
And so let's begin.
Right. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today for the NEAS webinar on quality assurance and English language teaching in collaboration with the Australian Trade and Investment Commission. Perfect. I'm so glad that we're seeing a lot of faces today. So if you wouldn't mind, considering that we have just begun, if we can put everyone on mute, that would be very, very appreciative. So just to kick off, my name is Sri Gunasilan and I'm speaking to you from Austrade in Kuala Lumpur. And before we get started, just a few housekeeping items. Next, please, Patrick. Perfect. To reduce background noise, like I said, if we could keep all the microphones on mute for the duration of the session, that would be very appreciative, except obviously for the person that's speaking. Please note the audio quality may fluctuate during the webinar. All questions will be addressed at the end of the session. And in order to ask any questions, which you can do so at any time, please use the chat function as illustrated in the slide here. Please note that this session is being recorded and the recording will be made available for all attendees here today, as well as internal staff in Austrade and NEAS respectively. Attendees who are not in agreement may exit now. Next slide, please. So the agenda for today, we'll just be starting off with opening remarks by Austrade, myself specifically, followed by an introduction to NEAS by Dr. Patrick Pheasant, who is our key speaker for this session. He will follow with a NEAS professional workshop, followed by a Q&A session as we wrap up. Next, please. So just to set the scene, I am pleased to provide a very quick overview of Australia's general education landscape, including our extensive education quality systems. Next, please. So Australia is a leading provider of consistently high quality education. It has great diversity in terms of its unrivaled range of study options and opportunities, specifically with 22,000 courses across 1,100 institutions. This includes 43 universities, over 700 registered training providers, and over 100 English language colleges. As the third most popular education destination in Australia, in the world, sorry, Australia is a well-established for its excellence across every discipline at every level of education. Next, please. So, but delivering quality education over many decades is a result of a rigorous system of quality control and government accreditation. So for the English language teaching sector, for instance, the Australian system requires providers to adhere to the National English Language Intensive Courses for Overseas Students Standards, otherwise known as ELTs, as well as the ESOS Act and the TPS, as well as the National Code. NEAS, obviously, which you will be hearing more in detail in coming up today, embodies Australia's extensive quality framework and the systems in its endorsement services, which helps achieve quality outcomes for English language teaching globally. Our regulatory system is highly adaptive to ensure that quality continues to be upheld for qualifications delivered in and out of Australia, as well as now that providers are moving online during COVID-19 pandemic. Next, please. So I have the great pleasure now to introduce you to Dr. Patrick Pheasant, our key speaker for this session. As the Chief Executive Officer at NEAS Australia, Dr. Patrick brings a dynamic systems perspective to a global outlook with 25 years experience in applying drama, English language teaching, and teacher training methodologies across independent high school, vocational education, higher education in corporate sectors in Japan, the Netherlands, the United States, and Australia. Dr. Patrick has held multiple senior management positions in international education and has extensive experience in change management. Now, without further ado, I hand it over to you, Dr. Patrick.
Thank you, Shri, and thank you to everyone at Austrade for putting this this webinar together. I'm delighted to be here, and thank you all for joining. It's really great to have you in this webinar today. I'm a teacher by trade, so we'll start off with a little bit of a warm-up, shall we, just to get you working and get your blood flowing. So I just would like you to kind of look at the screen and give me a bit of a wave. Can you give me a wave into the screen? Hi, everybody. You can keep your audio off. If you've got a video, that's great, but just have a listen. We're just going to do a bit of a warm-up. I'd like you to look at my video and put your hands on your head and just say, touch your head. Everybody, can you say that? Touch your head. Okay. Touch your shoulders. Touch your ears. Touch your nose. Touch your chin. Touch your head. Okay, good. I can see a few of you are kind of listening and watching. Touch your shoulders. Touch your nose. Good. We're all on point. Good to have you here, and we're nicely warmed up now. I apologize if you're sitting in a very busy office doing some weird actions, looking at the video with your headphones on, but welcome. So I'm going to talk to you today a little bit about quality assurance in English language teaching, and also about some professional development opportunities for you as a participant to this webinar. Cam Heath, my colleague, is also online. He'll be monitoring the chat room along with Shri and Erwin. And so if you have any questions, you can pop them into the chat room along the way. Also, I'm very happy for you to raise your hand or give me the thumbs up if you want to ask any questions or need me to speak, faster or slower or repeat something. So we're just going to practice that. If you can all just, if you know how to do Zoom and do a bit of a respond to me, either do the thumbs up or the applause or the wave, just so I can see you know how to use that function. Awesome. Okay, great, good. Okay, so let's start, shall we? So these are some focus questions I'd like you to think about, and hopefully when we come back to these questions at the end of the session today, you might have a different answer to them. But I'd like you just to take a moment. I'm going to give you 30 seconds to actually have a look at these focus questions and choose one of them and just think about what your answer might be to that focus question. So there's 3 questions there. What's your experience with quality assurance in English language teaching? What type of professional development do you think suits Malaysian teachers of English? And how can Australia and the ASEAN region work more collaboratively to enhance English language teaching? So just a few focus questions just to get you thinking about today's webinar. So I'll give you just 30 seconds to have a think about that. Okay, so we're going to come back to those questions at the end of the session, and I'm going to call on some of you to share your experience with quality assurance or English language teaching. So first, a little bit about NEAS. Everything I'm presenting today and all of the information, including all of our professional development, is on our website. So feel free to go to the website and enroll in any of the online courses that we have available. As part of your participation in today's webinar, we're going to give you access to our core courses, and you can actually start to study those online. We have all of our professional development courses on the website, as well as our standards, and as well as all information about our members. So our website is the go-to place. We'll be sending, after this presentation, by email to you a link, and you are more than welcome to participate in our online courses. Australia has been working in quality assurance in English language teaching for 30 years now. We were actually set up 30 years ago by Australian English language schools as a way of monitoring minimum standards for English language centres in Australia at the time. We've been around for 30 years and we've reinvented those standards and continuously improved on those standards for quality assurance in English language teaching. And we think we've become, this global specialist in English language teaching and quality assurance related to that. We know this because we benchmark with other quality assurance agencies. We belong to a consortium called Quaylen, which looks at other quality assurance agencies around the world, in the States, in Europe, in Canada, and we meet once a year and actually benchmark our standards and systems and processes against other quality assurance agencies. So our standards are global. They're not just Australian standards, although we have, the 30 years of experience in Australia developing and maintaining those standards. We have 167 member centres across Australia in all states, and we have 57 centres in Southeast Asia and the Middle East. So we are focused in Australia, but we have a very strong reach in Asia. We offer, as well as quality assurance, we offer professional development, workshops, online courses, and we also do consulting and help centres get up and running as well. So that's part of our service. I'm very pleased to welcome our Malaysian endorsed centres. ELS was the first Malaysian endorsed centre to receive quality assurance by NEAS in 2019. And English Language Company is pending endorsement, so they are almost through their endorsement process as well. So we're very happy to have them on board as a NEAS endorsed centre and also participate in the workshop today. So we're going to do a poll now. I'm really interested to hear what you think is the most important aspect of quality assurance. So Cam's going to bring a poll up onto the screen. Can you choose which of the 5 do you think is the most important for quality assurance in English language teaching? Is it stakeholder-driven feedback? So that's surveying and focus groups and interviewing with the students, the teachers and the staff? Or is it having an agreed set of standards, principles and drivers about the student experience? Is it about policies and procedures, or is it about great teachers with high-level qualifications, or is it about professional development? Your call. I'm interested to hear from you what you think is the most important aspect of quality assurance. So Cam, can you open the poll? So I'll just give you a moment there to vote. So it's interesting to see we've got a bit of a mixture here as people are voting. We have votes on all 5, which is very interesting. And we have the agreed and transparent standards taking ahead. So we're going to close the voting now so we can share the results. So yeah, look, more than half of you have said that it's about agreed and transparent standards, principles and drivers across multiple aspects of the student experience. And look, I would say that's actually the most important aspect as well. But I would like to note that actually all 5 areas here are really important as components of quality assurance in English language teaching. It's important to have continuous professional development, not just for teachers, but also for professional staff. It's important to have a set of policies and procedures as well. I mean, without documentation and things written down, you have no point of reference. Something that NEAS has been pivotal in actually starting is stakeholder-driven feedback. We were one of the first quality assurance agencies to introduce surveys and focus groups, not just from students, but also from teachers and also from the staff. So part of our process of quality assurance is triangulating that stakeholder-driven feedback, and this is, I think, a unique element of what we do at NEAS. But the most important thing, and of course, it's important to have great teachers with high level of qualifications. But as you'll see from some of the research I'll be showing you later, it's important to have minimum standards and entry requirements for teacher qualifications, but that's also needs to be complemented with continuing professional development for teachers. So the most important thing really is an agreed and transparent set of standards, and that's something that NEAS excels in. Quality assurance is really a systematic approach. So it's different to quality control, and it's different to auditing, and it's different to accrediting. The difference between all of those things and quality assurance is quality assurance is a system-wide approach, and it's ongoing, and it's about continuous improvement. So the approach that NEAS takes with our quality assurance is really about helping organisations almost as a critical friend to identify what their stakeholders are saying are positive things about them, and also what are their stakeholders saying that are areas for improvement or negative things. We take this very seriously and offer constructive support. We give people a lot of time to fix their issues and come up with strategies for addressing what their stakeholders are saying about them. So it's that critical friend, I think, is a great way to kind of describe what quality assurance is about. What happens if you don't have quality assurance is you get people who have different sets of standards. You get customers that become unhappy because they're not having their voice heard. And eventually you start to lose students and lose credibility. So there is an impact of not having some type of external independent specialist quality assurance. And NEAS is not the only organisation that does that. There are other ways to get this independent external quality assurance, and that another example is ISO 9000. So COVID is messing everybody up. Of course, we're all here today with in a virtual environment because of COVID, and NEAS, like all of the organisations around the world, have been dealing with COVID and dealing with a virtual environment, and we have been constantly surveying and canvassing our members to see what's going on with them during this pandemic. Some of the feedback we've got from a recent survey about quality assurance and how important this still is, even in a time when the student numbers are diminishing. Many providers, many organisations are still saying that QA frameworks are very essential for our sector. They can be used for recovery and for rebuilding, so giving providers a framework to improve during this period. We've had many providers who've taken the opportunity to go through the quality assurance process now rather than later. They're using this opportunity while they have a chance to be introspective and have an opportunity to review their policies and procedures while students are not attending. They've taken this opportunity to undertake quality assurance. We're really happy for those new members. These members believe it's vital to have the standards in the industry, not just government regulation, but having an industry-led and industry-influenced set of standards. And this is particularly vital in times of crisis like COVID. There are some providers and some organisations that feel kind of just too busy and too much going on, and that's understandable. Some believe it's difficult to focus on quality assurance when they just want to get students through the door and survive the pandemic. So we appreciate that different organisations are in different stages and have different needs during this time. But best practice is best practice, and it's good to have a set of standards that are accessible to all to help people, identify what they're doing right. So our framework is available online. It's free. You don't need to become quality assured by NEAS. You can just go straight to our website and have a look at the framework. We've spent 30 years designing the framework, and it's designed in a very holistic way. It's centered around the student experience. So all of the standards are aimed at providing the best positive experience for the student. And then supporting the student, we have 5 core areas of quality assurance that we look at and that we have different drivers for. That's teaching, learning and assessment, which involves curriculum, involves assessment items, assessment validation and moderation, involves teacher training. We have strategy, risk and governance, which looks at the bigger picture of the organisation and looks at identifying risks and making sure that the organisation's mission and values are communicated to everyone in the organisation. We have drivers and elements around resources and facilities. And this is, of course, looking at the provision and in these days also looking at how things are done online. We have drivers and elements around administration, management and staffing, including recruiting and professional development. And we have drivers around promotion and student recruitment. This is basically identifying what your centre or what your school is promising to the students and then making sure that they're delivering on that promise. So this is all around the student. And if you can think of like an analogy, it's kind of like a hospital. You have patients who are at the centre of the experience, and for us, for NEAS, that's like students. But then you also have doctors, you have nurses, you have the staff, and that's something that needs to be taken into consideration. And then you have the hospitals and the larger healthcare system. We think that English language teaching is as important as healthcare, and in fact the chair of our board is actually from quality assurance in healthcare. So there's a lot of synergies between making sure that the patient is happy and having a good experience and making sure the student is happy as well. So we like to use that analogy. Other areas that we've developed in the last couple of years, we've developed standards for dealing with under 18s. This is if you have students who are under 18, and we have even more refined standards for students who are under 15. We take that duty of care really important. And we have standards for online delivery, standards for ELT qualifications. So if you're delivering an English language course, for example, a CELTA or a Master in TESOL, we have standards for quality endorsing those courses. And recently we've just released standards for products and services, education agents, and also standards for ELT professionals for teachers. So we've been busy during the last 6 months, and we're very happy to share and engage with people who are interested in quality assurance, and even happier to have a dialogue with you about how you could start the process yourself. But what is quality endorsement? So at a glance, quality endorsement is a collection of documents against the standards. So this is providing evidence. And then there's normally a visit. So this is a virtual visit or a face-to-face visit. And there's focus groups and surveys involved at this stage. But then it's an ongoing annual activity, really looking at developing and having a continuous improvement system embedded into your school. So there's self-assessments, there's quality review visits, and then there's also professional development. And this can take 6 weeks to 6 months, depending on all of the documentation that already is in place. And we have some centres who have been, taking up to 12 months to complete the process. We like to give people the opportunity to take their time and get things done properly. And we also offer support along the way as well. Like I said, we're that critical friend. So global best practice. I could just talk about NEAS all the time, but I do also want to talk about what's going on around the world with quality assurance in English language teaching. So as I mentioned earlier, we belong to a consortium that is made up of different quality assurance agencies that specialise in English language teaching, and we benchmark every year. Over the last couple of years, we've tried to look at best practice worldwide for quality assurance in English language teaching. And one of the key elements, and this is what makes quality assurance specialists different, is short cycles. So your government body or accrediting agencies will normally have a cycle of 2 years or 5 years or 7 years. So they're very long cycles that they engage with a quality assurance process. NEAS has a 1-year cycle, so we like to do activities in a very short cycle. This is a way for us to check to see that things have improved, but also to pinpoint different areas every year and focus on different things that are very current and very important to the sector at the time. So that quick cycle is very important. So like I said, even if you're not interested in endorsement, if you're interested in quality assurance at your organisation, make sure that there's at least an annual cycle in there where you're getting feedback from your students and your teachers. Best practice globally is having a high level and focused qualifications for teachers. So this is important that the entry standard for teachers is set high, that you have specialist English language teachers involved with your teaching. This for NEAS is all teachers require a degree plus a specialised qualification in English language teaching and a practicum. So that practicum is very important, at least 6 hours teaching practice in front of another teacher, in front of real students. So they're the minimum qualifications, but then we also have identified best practice for having higher level qualifications for academic managers. So if you're a manager and you're managing other teachers, you need to have a management qualification of some type. This is one of the highest standards around the world, and we're working very closely with other members in the ASEAN region through some of our networks to try and establish a set of standards for teachers to enable teacher mobility. So we're really open for discussion from you on what standards you're applying in your centre, what are the standards in your region, in Malaysia, and also how you think that fits in with the standards in ASEAN and Australia. I think the ultimate goal is we want teachers to be able to move around and be mobile, and I think the first place to start is discussion around what are the minimum standards for English language teachers. So look out for our networks and our webinars around that. We're very interested in engaging with you about what you think that should be. Best practice is to have a set of standards specifically for under 18s, and this doesn't mean putting under 18s in the same classes as everybody else. It means actually having a set of checks and balances in place so those students are identified and supported and given the appropriate duty of care. This is really important, and in Australia especially has very strong legal ramifications if you are not looking after your under 18s. You know, depending on the state, there can be quite large fines if something goes wrong. So this is very important for us to help members identify. As I mentioned, we're a critical friend. This is our main kind of approach to help people and help them become more sustainable and more self-assuring. So eventually, you know, they can identify and manage their quality assurance themselves. So this is really that old expression, you know, teaching teachers to teach is the best way to kind of you know, continue the quality assurance, and we believe in that as well. So we have a lot of professional development available for your teachers and for your staff, and this professional development is aligned with each of our quality areas. So there's health checks available online as well. So your teachers and your professional staff and your managers can do health checks. These are quick quick surveys to identify areas for improvement, and then from there they can take professional development aligned with those areas. And finally, triangulation through stakeholder-driven feedback is really important. We take surveys from students and from teachers and from professional staff, and we triangulate that feedback, and where there's a gap, where there's discrepancy between what the students are saying and what the teachers are saying or what the centre is saying, that's where we try to identify areas for improvement. So it's the stakeholder-driven feedback and the triangulation based on evidence. And finally, as I mentioned, online professional development. This is something that's really important, and we want to make available to teachers. So we're just going to have a little kind of little break, and again a little exercise before I move into some research. Everybody, if you can just raise your shoulders, just scrunch up your shoulders and give your shoulders a bit of a shake out. Roll your shoulders round. You might want to stretch to the left and stretch to the right. Good. Now, I'm just going to open for any questions at this point before we move on to the second part of the presentation and talk about some research. Are there any burning questions that people have? If you've got one, you can just put your hand up, or actually put your thumbs up, and we'll open the floor to you.
Hi, Patrick. Actually, there is one question already in the chat side. So now Thompson had asked, could you share your thoughts on the difference between standards versus policy or regulation?
Yeah, okay, good question. In my mind, policies and regulation is documentation that a centre might develop in order to have a written form and communicate this to staff and to teachers and to other stakeholders. So from my perspective, policies and documentation and procedures are all about the actual centre and what goes on in your organisation. Whereas standards are something that are developed for the whole industry and developed through consultation with other organisations. So, you know, you might have standards that are developed for English language teaching in the case of NEAS. Under these standards will come out policies and procedures that different organisations might write to show evidence that they're actually addressing the standards. So policies and procedures, all about kind of operational activity and what the actual organisation says they're going to do. Standards are a more high level, developed at an industry level, adopted through a series of consultation and engaging with the sector. Policies and procedures are what you do in your own centre. Good question, Thompson, thank you. Another question maybe at this stage? Okay, well, let's continue. NEAS engages in quite a lot of research. Research is something we take very seriously. We do research on a regular basis. This research is available in detailed form on our website, but I'm just going to pull a few pieces of the research out and share with you what we've discovered through some of our activities with the sector. In 2018, we designed a set of standards for online delivery. So we were one of the first organisations to set standards for English language teaching online. This was pre-COVID. We developed these standards in 2018. And we reviewed these standards again with the sector during COVID. So we were thinking that, you know, the sector and English language teaching was eventually going to move to some degree online. And we were worried that there were not really a concrete set of standards for teaching English. There were standards for academic delivery for higher education, but nothing that was specifically for English language teaching. We went back to the sector and did a series of surveys and health checks in June this year, and we refined our set of standards for English language teaching. And these are available for you to use online. But I'd like to hear from you. We're going to do a quick poll. I just want to hear where your organisation is at with teaching English online. So which one of these situations describes you best? Number one, did you transform to English language teaching online as a result of COVID, but does your organisation intend to return face-to-face as soon as you can? Did you transform to English language courses online, but you intend to continue to offer online in the future? Or number three, are you going to offer a hybrid or a combination of online and face-to-face? Or number four, you don't offer any English language courses online. So Cam, if you can open the poll, and we'll just see what the room thinks. So while we're waiting for the poll to come through there, we were very, very encouraged by what people were doing online with English language teaching. There was a very, very rapid transition to teaching online, and many people struggled at the beginning, but there's really been a lot of innovation in teaching online and teaching English online. So we've been really impressed by what people who were surveyed were doing, and also by those centres that we've endorsed for their online English language teaching. So we're going to end the polling there and just have a look at what people are saying. So this is great. This is really good to hear that people are learning from the experience of teaching online during the pandemic, and actually will now consider to continue to offer a hybrid or a combination of online and face-to-face English language courses. Now we endorse online courses as well using these standards, and these are the key standards that we developed and again refined in June this year. And this is what we believe is best practice for online delivery. So the first component really is about having an online environment that's designed to really support an engaging user experience. So, this is things about using the right design and having the right colours and making it attractive, but it's also about making the design intuitive and visually pleasing and easy to navigate. We believe that the teacher needs to maintain a strong online presence by, combination of some type of face-to-face technology such as Zoom, but also use of, chat rooms and announcements and LMSs and places to post information to keep up constant contact with students. We also believe that there needs to be a range of learning tools, so dealing with diverse learners, and that there's a forum such as a chat room where students can voice their concerns. So for each of these standards I'm talking about, we have another 6 or 7 drivers which describe this standard in detail. So for more information, you can check out the standards online. But we've had good feedback from providers who are really focusing on excellent learning assessment strategies. This is something that people were slow to adopt. People moved online very quickly and then realized, hang on, we've got to assess people. How do we do it effectively online? So we're seeing some really innovative activities now with assessment validation and moderation. And this is really about making sure there's a diverse set of assessment items, that it's both formative and it's summative. The assessment items are designed to facilitate collaboration and peer learning, and really there's a lot of templates and rubrics and scaffolding that are being provided to the student. So if you're just doing an emergency style of online teaching and, doing just a Zoom, you need to really, if you want to continue to be effective with online delivery, you have to start to think of the whole system and all of the pieces together. And we're seeing some great technologies being used, but we're also seeing teachers just using some really basic technology as well. It's about the design and about how things are put together. It's important also, and this is feedback from the sector, that learning resources and technology support and facilitate learning. And this refers to really online courses, working across all devices, getting students up to speed with the technology, giving students time to adapt to the technology, and really looking to make sure that the teachers also are upgrading and doing professional development in the technology systems that you're using. And finally, having a reporting system. This is something, that doesn't have to be an expensive learning management system. It can be as simple as an Excel spreadsheet, or it can be as large as a full system like Moodle or Blackboard. But there needs to be a reporting system for students with explicit orientation, socialization activities, tracking of attendance and progress, and making sure that students are given clear information and timely information. So this is global best practice. These are the 4 key standards. We wanted to check what teachers were saying and what students were saying of these standards. So we didn't just want to take what providers or what the centres were saying for granted. So we actually surveyed students and teachers as well and asked them how effective their centre was in delivering on these 4 standards. So as I mentioned, our stakeholder-driven feedback is all about gap analysis. So when we survey or have focus groups, we want to see where the differences in opinions are between the different stakeholders. Now, interestingly, the 4 standards I just mentioned all scored very lowly by the actual students. So this told us that even though centres and teachers thought they were achieving these standards, students were actually thinking that these standards weren't achieved to the same degree. So all 4 standards had a negative variance, which kind of raised some alarm bells for us. So we investigated a little bit more deeply, and we found that the positive things, so the places where there were the smallest gap between what the teachers and the staff were saying and the students were saying, were these 3 items. So students were very happy that the content was linked to assessment activities and there was automated feedback. So where there was lots of feedback and it was automated and instant, students were really happy. Students were also feeling confident about having the technical skills that they needed to participate. And students also felt that they were given enough templates and rubrics to participate well in the online delivery. But there were some big gaps as well. So some of the biggest gaps between student satisfaction and what students were saying and what teachers and centres were saying were things around learner motivation and having a variety in activities for learners. So it's really important in your design of online delivery, you're trying as many different things as possible to attract and to connect and engage with different learning styles and different types of students. Students want to hear more explicit instructions and clearer information, especially around the timing. So I guess the timing is one of the biggest problems that people are having. No one estimated just how much time it would take to actually prepare the courses, to do the homework, to participate with the face-to-face activities. So students' feedback was really saying that they needed more explicit information about the actual time required. And finally, and this I think is actually a really great thing, students want more face-to-face, they really do, and I think teachers do as well. I don't know if it's the right thing to do to be completely having everything online in an asynchronous format where there's not that personal connection. And I think, Zoom is one of the great technologies of our era that allows us to kind of connect with people in a digital way. So keep on using it. but also try and use Zoom a little bit differently as well. You know, try to make those connections visually, try to do physical activities and physical things with the students, so people are engaged and are paying attention and are really listening to what you're saying. So another little poll for you. I'm interested to hear about you. What type of person are you? What describes you best? So we're going to open up our poll again. Do you learn by thinking? Do you learn by watching? Do you learn by doing, or do you learn by teaching? Okay, so we've got a bit of a mixture coming through here as people are answering this this question. And I guess I've checked the attendance list. I guess we've got mostly teachers in the room, so I'm sure we've got a lot of people who appreciate the effort that goes into teaching and the learning that you get from that activity. We're going to close the polls now, and so we have a majority learn by doing, and that's a really interesting insight. You know, and I think one of the biggest challenges for myself personally, being you know, having a background in teaching using drama and teaching using very kind of strong facilitation techniques, is it's really hard to translate some of those activities into the online space. I'm very used to reading a room and seeing if people are engaged by you know, the way they use their eye contact and their body language, and that's how I actually learn as well. I learn by doing too. So it's important that we continue to innovate and continue to look for opportunities on how we can do this in a hybrid and a combined model. I'm just going to skip through a couple of presentations and talk about our last piece of research and development that we've been doing. We did some research a couple of years ago that revealed that there could be more professional development for teachers, especially at different stages along their life cycle. So acknowledging that teachers, you have a novice teacher, and then you have teachers moving through a teacher life cycle right up to expert or master teachers. So we wanted to design some way to provide professional development to teachers at every stage of their life cycle. And we've recently released a way for teachers to undertake micro-credentialing and get listed publicly for their achievements. And this is on our website, and we'll be sending you the links later if you would like to pass this on to your teachers. It's actually free to get listed, and it's also free for participants of this workshop to participate in our core courses. Our courses for English language teaching professionals are micro-credentialed and looking at different levels. Our core courses are our basic courses, which are aligned with the quality assurance framework. So this covers areas like the student experience, like teaching, learning and assessment, strategy, risk and governance. There's core courses, they're very short, they're bite-sized, they can be done very quickly by teachers, and they're asynchronous, so they can be done at any time. Achieving these courses allows the novice teacher to then move into specialization courses, which we have available as well. These courses are looking at things like English through drama, education agents and dealing with agents, looking at English language teaching qualifications, leadership in English language teaching. So we've created a series of specializations that teachers can do. And each time they finish these courses, they receive a badge that gets put onto their listing. So if you have a look at our listing, you can see there are some teachers that have worked through all of these stages. And then our final capstone course, which is available in order to become an endorsed ELT professional, is the Master Practitioner in English language teaching. And this is a special course that is, we believe, the first of its kind. It's a course that allows teachers to develop a project that they can do in their centre or their organisation that showcases their understanding of quality assurance in English language teaching. So it's a great course for academic managers or senior teachers or expert teachers who want to showcase that they can demonstrate quality assurance in English language teaching. And it's like a mini research project, and it's also available to be done online as well. So the core courses are available at no cost, and then from there, there's cost associated with the continuing courses. However, if you're an endorsed centre, all of your teachers have eligibility to attend the courses. And we have a conference, and I'd like to invite you as well to attend the conference next year. It's in May. Next year's topic is transformative journeys in education, and we've certainly had some major transformation over the last 6 months. This is an online conference, but also a face-to-face conference. And we are also offering any providers who become endorsed from the ASEAN region. Part of the endorsement in your first year is we will support you to travel to Sydney to attend the conference. So this is part of the initial application fee. We want this to be an international conference and for people to attend from not just from Australia. So we're really looking to help people get to participate in the conference. We have over 300 participants at the conference every year, and it's often a really great networking event. So that's part of the initial application for endorsement for this year. So we've just completed some final research, and this is the note I'm going to leave you on. We engaged a lot of the sector through a series of surveys and focus groups. We wanted to understand what quality assurance meant to the sector, and this is the key responses that we got from the sector about quality assurance. And we're really, really happy that people really value and have identified quality assurance as one of the key components of the institution. So quality and quality assurance must be in the DNA of the institution. Our sector, our English language teaching community, believes quality assurance provides reassurance to government regulators. It's vital for a country's attractiveness as an education destination of choice. It really matters to Australia and to the greater ASEAN region. Quality assurance is now a very, very key principle in making the country very attractive for international students to study. The support and guidance provided by the quality assurance process is really valued, and the quality teaching and education can really improve the student experience. And finally, innovation and positive disruption is really going to refocus us, and we really want you to be involved with our journey, our transformative journey, and invite you to participate, if only to look at the website and see what resources we've got available, and share the news about our professional development that's available online. So that's it from my presentation. Thank you for staying through to the very end, and I hope you've grasped some understanding about what we do at NEAS and what resources are available. There'll be some follow-up surveys and emails, and also a copy of this presentation that'll be sent through to you in the next couple of days, and we can open the dialogue there. So we've got some questions we might just end with. I'm going to hand it back to you, Shreed, if you wanted to identify any questions that I might be able to answer.
Yes, indeed. Thank you so much, Dr. Patrick, for the presentation, and particularly the research insight was certainly useful, especially as our education system here is grappling with the new normal. So as Dr. Patrick had said, the session is now open for questions, so please feel free to use the chat function to ask any questions that you may have. And we will endeavor to ensure that we get to all your questions. But in the meantime, let me start you off, Dr. Patrick, with a question of my own. So coming from a perspective of an ELT center in Malaysia, what does it mean for me to have a NEAS quality mark?
Yeah, no, look, good question. I mean, part of the endorsement process is you get to use this logo here You get to use that on all of your marketing material on your website. You can put it on your certificates for students. You can put it on your teacher certifications. You're allowed to use the logo as a mark of quality, as a way of differentiating you against someone else in the sector who hasn't gone through that process. That tick is extremely well recognised in Australia. As I mentioned, NEAS has been around for 30 years. We developed the standards 30 years ago. We're well acknowledged and regarded by the Australian government and by the peak bodies in Australia, and also by all of our members. So if you're interested in engaging directly with Australian entities through articulations or partnerships, it's definitely something that's instantly recognisable and acknowledged as a mark of quality. But we're finding that the NEAS mark of quality is becoming also quite widely recognised in ASEAN region, and we think this is really important for us to offer this type of quality assurance in the same time zone. You know, there are other quality assurance agencies around the world, but they are out of sync with this region. So I think it's really an opportunity for ASEAN and Australia to really connect and have a shared understanding of quality standards, and you can be part of that if you have the NEAS tick.
Perfect. Thank you so much for that clarity. And another, suppose, question though, because you're talking about ELT centers, but does that also include, the ELT centers within the universities, or different, combinations of those titles in universities and other centers, institutions in Malaysia, for instance?
Yeah, so we quality endorse English language teaching and the community. So that's every aspect of the community. So if you're teaching English to international students, we can quality assure that. If you're teaching teachers how to teach English, we can quality assure that as well. And it doesn't matter whether you're a primary school, a high school, a university, an online provider, or a standalone English language school. We have all of those types of members. So there is no limit, other than it has to be related to the English language teaching community. So for example, we wouldn't quality assure mechanical engineering, for example. It has to be related to the English language.
Perfect. And then just another question for you. So in terms of, I know you did mention this earlier in your presentation, but from the start of the application to the point where you actually get the logo, how long does it actually take?
It takes normally around 6 weeks, but some providers take up to 6 months to complete. We've had other providers who have taken up to a year to finish. So it really depends on what systems you already have in place. We do an initial check with you. There's an application form. We look at what you've got. We help you identify what you haven't got. And then we talk to you about what those types of documents and evidence should be. We can support and provide that as well. So we have curriculum available. We also have a consultancy service, so we can develop those policies and procedures on your behalf as well. It just depends on where you're already at with your quality assurance process. So yeah, we like to say 6 weeks to 6 months, but it could take a little bit longer. But we also have some providers that get through the process in under a month.
Okay, it's good to know. And a question that just came in from the chat. Thank you so much, Taylor. So she has asked, when we talk about teachers and their qualifications, how serious is it to really uphold the standards for hiring? And what about teachers who have a lot of experience but may not possess the specified certification?
Yeah, look, we get this a lot. There are a lot of teachers in the industry who have been teaching for a long time, and experience is is highly regarded. When we look at teacher certifications as part of the endorsement process, we have a minimum set of standards, but we also will look at exceptions and recognition of prior learning as well. So there is a process to go through the application kind of process to get the qualifications checked. But NEAS's stance is at some point there needs to be a continuous professional development for those teachers that have been teaching a long time who don't have a formal, TESOL qualification. We look to have them either do the TESOL qualification or do the professional development that NEAS offers. It's all about ongoing support for the teacher. So it really depends on a kind of case-by-case basis, but schools are normally pretty good at identifying, what type of professional development plan they can put in place for their teachers who don't have the minimum standards. But, we have to draw the line somewhere. There has to be a minimum standard, otherwise there's no point for having standards at all. But there are lots of positives about having a plan in place to achieve those standards, and it's not just about a pass or fail with the quality assurance process. It's about having an ongoing plan and strategy. So we like to insist that everyone has the minimum standards, but we are open to providers that are really serious about upskilling their teachers who have taught for a long time and engaging those master teachers with new professional development.
Perfect. Thank you so much. And we're certainly, unfortunately, we've run out of time. We've just 3 minutes past 3 o'clock. So just to ensure that we keep time, or at least some of it, for any questions that any of the other audiences do have, please feel free to just input that straight away into the chat, and we'll take that on notice, and we'll make sure that we get back to you via email. On behalf of Austrade and NEAS, thank you so much for attending the webinar today. I hope you found this an insightful session. A copy of the presentation and the recording will be made available to you via an email in the coming days. And once again, thank you so much. Keep social distancing, please, and wishing you all a safe and healthy week ahead.
Thanks, everyone. I look forward to continuing the dialogue with you. Thank you.